Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, December 20th, 2005. City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we do invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Han, Huizar, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendale, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Sign, Padilla, 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. Colleagues, this is a Tuesday, the first meeting of the week. As is our custom, we have our salute to the flag scheduled for today. Fontaine, can I ask you for a favor? Would you lead us in the flag salute, please? Yes. Please rise.
Please place your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
With the future of the Patriot Act being debated in Congress, who better than our librarian to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Madam Clerk, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Smith moves, Mr. Reyes seconds,
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Weisad moves, and Ms. Gruel seconds.
Mr. President, on the regular agenda, the first two items noticed for public hearings, and the recommendation for council action on both of those, the applicant consents to a continuance to January 24th.
Okay, colleagues, any objection to continuing items 1 and 2? Seeing none, so ordered. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held, items 3 through 18. Items 3 and 4 are both commissioners. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Let's hold all commission appointments on the desk. That's items 3 and 4, I believe that's it. Leaving colleagues items 5 through 18. These items have had public hearings in committee. A motion would be required to reopen the public hearings. If there's no such motion, request for specials, beginning with Ms. Gruel.
Just like item number 17 to be continued to February 3rd.
Okay, any objection, colleagues? Seeing none, item 17 is continued. Ms. Han.
14 special.
14, call special by Ms. Han. Mr. Parks.
11. Special.
11, call special by Mr. Parks. Any other specials?
Mr. President, just to let council know, on item number 18, a motion is required inasmuch as the committee is submitting the Cultural Heritage Commission recommendations without a recommendation.
Okay, do we have a motion, item 18? Going once, going twice. If not, let's hold that on the desk as well as we await a motion. Any other specials, items 5 through 18? Seeing none, let's open the roll on the balance of the items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 19 through 53, 10 votes are required for consideration, and item number 19 is also a commissioner.
Let's hold the commission appointments on the desk. Colleagues, on the balance of the items, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council. Public hearings are opened and closed. Requests for specials, Ms. Han? Ms. Gruel?
Item 53, please.
53, call special by Ms. Gruel. Mr. Parks?
44.
44, call special by Mr. Parks. Mr. 34. Mr. Robinson?
Yeah.
Mr. Rosendahl? 54?
34.
34. Mr. Rogers? That's what I was thinking of. Any other specials? Seeing none, on the balance of the items, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are the closed session items 54, 55, and 56. Do you wish to hold those on the
I
desk?
told all closed session matters on the desk. Next items.
Next items on the supplemental agenda, items 57 through 82. Public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. And I understand on item 65, there is a substitute motion that is, I believe, still in the process of being distributed to the council members. It
Okay, well,
hasn't
let's
been-
hold that item on the desk. I do have a card on item 58. We'll call that special. On the balance of these items, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council. Those public hearings are open and closed. Any additional specials? Any additional specials? Seeing none, let's open the roll on the balance of the items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. And let me announce at this time, colleagues, that since this is the last week of council for the calendar year, all items approved today shall be sent forthwith. Madam Clerk, forthwith on all items approved today. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 3, and that's confirmation of Ms. Nelly Rios-Parra to the Board of Library Commissioners.
Okay, if she'll come forward at this time. Members of the council wishing to speak on item number 3, we do have a committee report recommending confirmation. Go ahead and have a seat. Members wishing to speak, beginning with Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. Again, this is another fine appointment by Mayor Villaraigosa for the Library Commission. We have our librarian here, and we have a new commissioner to be. If you could just express your passion for the library. I know you're a wonderful mother, which is so important, and I know how good my mother was to me to push me to libraries as a child.
Well, libraries have always served as a sanctuary, not only for myself and my family, but many newcomers to this country, as well as people who have lived here their whole life. And I think it's an opportunity to continue that passion for making sure people have access not only to libraries, books, but to a community hub. So I look forward to carrying that mission of making it accessible to everyone.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I recommend a strong approval of this.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I also wanted to rise in support of Ms. Rios-Parra's nomination. I have known her for quite some time, and I find her to be uniquely qualified because of her educational background as well as her community activism. I know that she will make a really excellent addition to this commission. I look forward to working with her.
Thank you.
Mr. Wisar.
Thank you. I too rise in support, in strong support of this appointment. Ms. Rios-Parra is a constituent of the 14th Council District, where her activism and her involvement in numerous community activities is well known, and your involvement at the Lenox School District. You've done a tremendous job there. And I want to also recognize in attendance the superintendent of Lenox, who's here with us. Thank you for coming by, to supporting one of your employees and allowing the flexibility for her to serve the city of Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other members of the council wishing to speak on item number 3? Seeing none, let's open the roll on confirmation, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's official now. And thank you for serving the city of Los Angeles. Next item, please.
Next item is confirmation of Mr. Martin Cooper to the Quality and Productivity Commission, and our Audits Governmental Efficiency Committee report has been submitted to council.
Mr. Cooper, welcome. Please come forward. And again, colleagues, we do have a committee report recommending approval. Let me recognize Ms. Gruhl to speak first.
Wanted to stand and support this individual. Marty and I had a chance to talk this morning. Even though he's not been officially put on the commission, he's already attended a couple of meetings, and that's the kind of individual Marty Cooper is, and has brought to his chairmanship of VICA and other kinds of things. He's got a lot of creative ideas about making efficiency something very, very important, and I'm so sorry I stepped up before. I should have let our chair of audits, Jose Wisar, make remarks, but I was so excited about Marty being nominated today. So just wanted to stand up and support Marty's nomination. Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll go to Mr. Wiesett, Chair of the committee.
Thank you. Well, I too wanted to jump out of my chair, Ms. Gruhl, on this appointment. Mr. Cooper, we heard your comments yesterday in the audits committee, but I wanted again to ask you, for the sake of our council, I thought you gave an excellent reply in your vision and goals in your role in this commission. Again, if I could briefly ask you, what do you see your role on this commission, and what do you personally want to commit to this commission?
I think this commission is inordinately important because it can provide a great conduit between the residents of our city and the people who work for our city. And I think the residents of our city and those who have their businesses here don't have as good an idea as they might of the hard work and the efficiency and the productivity of our city employees, and I think we need to do a better job of communicating that. And I think we also need to do a better job of letting employees know that what they do is recognized, and to stimulate what they do better in the future by recognizing what they do now. For 10 years, I was in charge of public relations for the Academy Awards. And what that's all about is stimulating excellence in film by recognizing it. And I hope that we can do the same thing by making this commission even more efficient itself and more able to achieve those goals.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. I look forward to working with you. And as you can hear, council members, this is an excellent addition to this commission, and he's going to be a great asset. Thank you so much.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Marty Cooper. A man who is punctual, whether you arrive early or leave late. You already have your city ID. So if we don't confirm you this morning, we have to give that back. So we're not going to do that to you, Marty. You've been in the community for many years. We've broken bread together and discussed a lot of the issues. You are a great historian, a great leader, and your communications firm does a wonderful outreach to the community. Recently, you did the at WorkSource Center, helping the people at WorkSource Center, helping them make connections, helping them build. And your experience comes to this to help the city of Los Angeles. And it's important that we deliver all those services in a timely fashion, within budget, and make things happen. And I know that you have the experience. The chairmanship, which I hope you will be the chairperson of that particular commission, which is critically important in this day and age when we talk about resources and the economy and the stress and strain. You come with a lot of accolades, what you've done in the Valley. You now get to take that and branch it out to the entire city of Los Angeles for all the taxpayers of the city. So it's, and I'm glad that you live in my district. I'm glad I was able to bring your name forward. I'm glad the mayor brought this nomination forward for today for success. But I can only say I wish you well with it. Anything I can do, or my staff, and I'm sure my colleagues join me in offering our assistance. But it's a very, very important commission. It hasn't received the recognition it should receive. It's all about dollars and cents. And if you read Sunday's Daily News, the front page story, that clearly reflects what we need to recognize and deliver to the people of Los Angeles. So congratulations. I am sure we will get unanimous approval in this, and you'll be able to carry on with that mission. And then again, the chairmanship would be, I think, most appropriate with your experience, knowledge, and the history that you have. And that bet is on. The Z Awards luncheon will end on time at 1:30, and you will owe me another dinner. Thank you, Marty Cooper.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad to join with my Valley colleagues in recommending Mr. Cooperman. You know, he was, when I was running for office, he was on the panel that interviewed me, and I remember also when I brought my Renew LA plan, you were there. And he asked those really specific, very technical questions, very incisive questions, the kind of things that really will make a great asset to that productivity committee, because you're very good at looking at things and turning them upside down and trying to figure out why it works. And I think it'll be a great asset to the city. You've already been a great asset at VICA, and particularly as we tried to get the business tax reform package passed, you're a big, important part of that. So I'm glad you're here. Glad to see you on that commission. For the rest of you that don't know Marty, he'll be a great city commissioner. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. Cooper, thank you very much. And as I rise, as many have risen to salute you, but I have watched you over the years, your work in the community with various organizations, and also your critical analysis sometimes of what we do, which I think is important, because there's nothing like being able to critique, and as you mentioned there, having an understanding of the city process. Is there anything you would like to express to us as you go forth in this productivity commission?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. I think this commission has been a bit of an orphan child, and I think what I would ask is of the members of the council is...
Hey, wait a second, Mr. President, if I could ask for a little attention. Mr. Zine? Thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I think this commission has been a bit of an orphan child, and I think it would be to the benefit of the city that when members of this commission come knocking on the doors of the various members of the city council, just to listen to our ideas and our thoughts and where we'd like to move forward, that we get a yes when we ask for the opportunity to sit and chat with you for a few minutes.
Well, I'm sure you'll get that, because all of us need the advice and counsel of those, and your business background is so important. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the service to this commission, and wish you well, and my door is always open, as I'm sure with the rest of the council members. And I hope you look at everything, because there's a tremendous asset of what the city does. Government's different than business. Everybody compares it to us. But how government can best serve its people and most utilize the precious tax dollars is important to see and be key on. Thank you, Martin, very much.
Other members of the council wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on confirmation, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for serving the city. Colleagues, we do have one presentation scheduled for today. Let me recognize Councilmember Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As Tom LeBon just said as he was passing by, say it isn't so be, but it is. We all come to the point with incredible people around here where the city family trains, gives people experience, grows from their expertise and their experience, but has to say goodbye to individuals. And one extraordinary individual who has literally been the cornerstone of my work over the last 4.5 years is Beatrice Hsu, who is right now our Senior Legislative Deputy of Council District 13, but a title like that doesn't even begin to describe the person, the work, the vision, the commitment of this individual. B is one of those people who makes the entire council office a joy to come to every single day. Somebody whose razor-sharp intellect, somebody whose passion and commitment to the ideals that we hold most high has resulted in real change to people's lives here in Los Angeles. When you think about the work that Ms. Perry and I have done to keep homeless shelters open year-round, you have to think about Beatrice Hsu. When you think about the mess that our block grant situation was in, and we risked punishment from the federal government the first year we were here, and getting that straightened out, you have to think about Beatrice Hsu. When you think about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the fight for inclusionary zoning, and when you think about the protections that are out there for tenants, you have to think about Beatrice Hsu. When you think about also individual projects, which are very different than policy and takes a different sort of mind and a different sort of expertise, certainly in Council District 13, the last few years where we've been able to build over 600 units of affordable housing, that success too is because of Beatrice Hsu. She was a master detective and investigator, one of those people who, when we say that phrase, scrubbing the books, she actually put on those gloves, got the disinfectant, and not only scrubbed the books, but was able to find outlying pieces of dollars that would be the difference between a park penciled out or not, or a community center was built. I know as Council District 13 staff is all here to bid her well. We put together a resolution which has all sorts of good things in here that I won't read everything from, but it describes her education at Yale University, her work for Councilmember Cindy Misikowski and State Controller Kathleen Connell, and here the way that she has distinguished herself from the budget to housing policy, community development, and community redevelopment work, which leads her to what her next step is. So she's not going to be an unfamiliar face around here, colleagues, because B is becoming the vice president of the Related Companies, which is doing that small project in Ms. Perry's district called Grand Avenue. And she will head up the office here in Los Angeles, working closely with the rest of the Related Company folks. So she'll only be a couple blocks away. But her indelible print, her unforgettable smile, her way of getting things done and not being intimidated, because it can be very intimidating for a young person to come into City Hall where years of experience and people's knowledge can chase people away, but she always kept her eye on the ball, which was making sure that people in need are served. She's joined here by her husband, Andrew Glazier, who's somewhere around here, right back there, the fine fellow in the red shirt. She was a great constituent and remains a great constituent of Tom Labange's district, CD4. Very low maintenance, but high performing, which is really important. The ideal, exactly. Took her cans in every single time. And a little bit of an inside joke, but one of the whereases says, when come back, bring pie. And we want to make sure that you think about not only coming back, but you are not only part of the city family, but you are an indelible part of the Council District 13 family. Thank you, Bea, for making our district and making our city a more just, a more livable, and a more beautiful place, and we will really, really miss you, but we know you won't be far away. So with that, please congratulate Beatrice Hsu for 4.5 years of extraordinary service. Thank you. Over your head, folks. Go ahead, give your-
Ms. Gruhl.
Okay, we'll take pictures.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. And Bea, we started working with you, I think, the first day that we came into office, because we were chairing Housing Committee, and you had such expertise and had a close friendship with Leslie Polner and my staff, and it was a great dynamic duo. Everyone thought maybe, as Eric and I were really moving things, but I think it was Bea and Leslie who were doing all the hard work and heavy lifting. And Bea, you've kind of just been one of those people within the council staff that when you talk about kind of the best and brightest, everyone goes, Bea Hsu, she's one of the best in City Council for, again, not only your knowledge and public policy interest, but your passion for the city. And so I know that with your new job, you're still going to have that commitment and working for, on the other hand, Jan Perry in her own way for her council district. But just wanted you to know that you were noticed not only by Eric, but the rest of us on the city council, and knew that if we ever had a question or a problem, we could call Bea. Bea would be able to give us the right answer. So thank you for coming. You'll be missed quite a bit. I know Eric is going to miss you a lot as well with his new responsibilities here. But we know you're only a phone call away. So congratulations on your new position.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. Thank you, Bea. Thank you very much. And Andrew, you were great citizens of Los Angeles. I don't know where Andrew is there in the back. Come on up there, Andrew. Don't be a shy guy. But I know you're taking a big step, and so I wanted to give you the poem for downtown, Bea. Do you know the poem for downtown? You have done a remarkable job, and what is great, too, as a former staffer, you've contributed greatly, and this experience with Mr. Garcetti will help in other areas that you work. But from Maine, you spring to Broadway, up the hill to Olive. Wouldn't it be grand if you could hope to pick a flower on Figueroa? I know you're going to spend a lot of time on Grand Avenue. You're going to make a connection there to make sure it's an L so it comes down to connect to this grand city hall and what all that you do. Bea, congratulations to you, and Andrew, congratulations to you. Don't be shy.
Thank you. I just want to say what an honor it's been to serve this council and to serve alongside all of the talented and dedicated staff in all of your council offices and all the city departments. It's been so much fun, and I'm really going to miss this building a lot. In particular, I want to acknowledge the CD13 staff, who have just been the most dedicated, smart, fun, passionate, compassionate people that I've ever had a chance to work with. I'm so proud to call myself a part of your team, and thanks for just being the greatest support and family for me for the past 4.5 years. I want to acknowledge my boss, Councilmember Garcetti, and thank him, and also Rich Llewellyn, if you're listening anywhere out there, for giving me this opportunity and hiring me in the first place. This has been the most amazing professional experience any young person interested in public policy could ever ask for. And Lynn, don't cry. So thank you for the support, and also for the, as well as the guidance, the long leash to really get out there and learn by doing and work on some of the most interesting public policy and economic development projects possible. You've been the best boss and the most wonderful friend, and I hope you still consider myself part of your team, even after Lord Chick stopped signing my paychecks. And then I also want to acknowledge my husband, Andrew, who you've all just met, for being my support through all the ups and downs and the difficult decisions that this job has brought and will continue to be. So thank you for taking the time, and I'll see you next year on the other side of the ropes.
Come back this way. We take pictures in the back here.
365 days and counting. Colleagues, we have two requests to take items out of order. The first is by Ms. Perry to take item 34. Oh, we do. Oh, we have one more commissioner. I'm sorry. Shh. Sorry, just going to need your help today. Next item, please.
Item number 19, and that's confirmation of Mr. Joseph Gentile to the Employee Relations Board.
Okay. As he comes forward, I believe we have a recommendation for confirmation. Members wishing to speak, beginning with Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Once again,
Yes?
we had the opportunity to meet this morning, went through your resume, your experience. You're being reappointed from previous administration because obviously you've done a good job in dealing with all of these difficult matters. And I know that the time that you devote to this, along with the other commissioners, helps make the city run smooth. So after reviewing your resume and the fact that you were appointed by the previous administration, continuing with this administration, which isn't often the case, the recommendation that's come forward is supported obviously by management and labor. And after speaking with you and learning your background, highly qualified for this position to continue serving in that. So I would recommend approval and wish you well in that endeavor to continue delivering good services to the city and make our employees happy, make the contracts work, make everyone happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll on confirmation, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving the city. This too goes forthwith. And now, Mr. Cardenas.
Notice reconsideration of item number 16 as a courtesy to Council District 5. There's some constituents here who want to speak on that item, so open it up for public comment.
Let's open the roll on reconsideration, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, that item is reconsidered back before us, and we'll call that special. We do have two items to take out of order, and unless there's an objection, we'll reopen the public hearing for item 16. The first item to be taken out of order is item 34. Excuse me, folks, before you come forward. Item 34, call special by Mr. Rosendahl and Ms. Perry.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I guess the question we're going to have to wrestle with is why are there 91,000 homeless people in Los Angeles County? We have some visitors with us today, and I'd like to ask them to come up to the front table for just a second. Captain Wakefield and Captain Andy Smith from Central Division LAPD. This is a national disgrace, and it's time we took a hard look at the growing crisis and begin to organize ourselves at all levels of government to do a far better job. Some of our challenges are identifying resources for homeless services, more resources, better management of critically needed health and mental health services to ensure that they are well integrated and made available at our emergency homeless shelters, that long-term chronic homeless issue be effectively addressed, and that we get our fair share of Prop 63 funds to do so, to ensure that programs that serve the homeless in the city of Los Angeles are adequately funded to meet the need for housing and supportive housing, and begin smart planning for better systems of care to be developed throughout the region, and to create a system of care that will engage and link people to services where and when they become homeless, to educate the public about the seriousness of this crisis, and to encourage partnerships at all levels of government to address homelessness in the county of of Los Angeles. I think that this ad hoc committee will offer us a unique opportunity to address these issues and allow us to prioritize funding, seek accountability, and to allow us to move forward to address homelessness more effectively in our city and region. And I just would like to ask the two captains here to just give us a snapshot of homelessness in Central Division, how many people there are, their status, how many people are on the street, and what it takes to be able to make this better community. Whoever wants to go first.
Thank you, Councilwoman Perry. I'm Captain Andrew Smith. I'm the commanding officer of Central Area, Los Angeles Police Department. Mr. President, honorable commissioners, this is my partner, Captain Wakefield.
Good morning.
It certainly is a crisis situation in downtown Los Angeles, as you know from reading the local papers, reading the national news, and even internationally. Just as recently as yesterday, we had people from the Czech Republic, journalists from the Czech Republic, doing a story about our Skid Row area. It's a tremendous problem in the downtown area. We have between 800 and 1,500 people sleeping in boxes and in tents out on the street. As you know, and I'm certain you've all driven through there. I want to thank the council for their support in working in the downtown area. I just want to point out one thing. As recently as yesterday, we had 4 individuals died on Skid Row. 3 we believe were overdoses of heroin, and 1 is an undetermined cause. But the human tragedy that you see on Skid Row when you walk around there on a daily basis, like my partner and I do, it's just staggering to see the conditions that people live in. And I want to thank the City Council, especially Councilwoman Perry and Mr. Huizar, for the support that they've given the Central Area and the Los Angeles Police Department on this issue.
Either one of you can answer this. Can you tell me of the population of those individuals living on the street? Do you have any rough estimates of how many of them are mentally ill or with co-occurring disorders?
Certainly, and I'm convinced that one of the chief reasons why they're living on the streets downtown is because they're mentally ill and they have a narcotics addiction of either cocaine or heroin. But certainly a huge majority of people that we come across are mentally ill and in many, many cases unable to care for themselves. And we just don't have the facilities and don't have the resources to care for these mentally ill individuals that are wandering on the streets, causing problems in the community. And just the tragedy of people living in those conditions themselves is, it's shocking if you've ever been down there, and I know you have, ma'am.
Captain Wakefield, I know that some of the officers in Central Division who work directly with the homeless population have to receive extra special training because it's a special detail. Could you just share with my colleagues for a second what that means?
Because our officers deal with the mentally ill population so often, we request that we have extra training when it comes to how do you deal with someone that's mentally ill on the street. And they are probably the best trained officers in the city in dealing with that because of the daily contact that they have. So we continuously ask for extra training and roll calls. And in fact, we have a mentally evaluation unit actually has sent a team of 3 people to work our division solely from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during day watch because of the volume of the mentally ill and making sure we place them appropriately throughout the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I have on the queue Mr. Rosendahl, followed by Ms. Gruhl, Mr. Huizar, and Mr. Zine. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleague for her opening comments on it. Jan Perry has been a true leader in the city in dealing with the issue, and she and I have co-sponsored this motion to create the ad hoc committee on homelessness. It's not an easy issue. There are no easy answers. I have an encampment actually building right now on Venice, which again is a big issue. It's not as huge as the one Jan has, but it's already starting to blossom as the winter starts to move forward. And I just say to my colleagues that this effort on our behalf with this homeless committee is an effort of the City of Los Angeles to literally focus on it and do the following. 1, come up with the best plan for Los Angeles City and County and look at New York, look at San Francisco, look at the smaller cities like Santa Monica, see if we can put a 10-year plan together. Secondly is to take Prop 63 money. There's hundreds of millions of dollars for mental illness. We all agree that a good number of the homeless people are mentally ill people, drug and alcohol abused people. These are people that need those services. I look forward to the day that we can drill down these millions of dollars and have a caseworker, not a police officer, but a caseworker, walk up to a homeless person who is in one of these encampments and convince them it's in their best interest, like Steve Lopez is trying to do right now in his article with that gentleman there with the violins, to come in out of the darkness into an assisted living complex where institutionalization will help them find the services they need. I envision our city doing this over the next 8 to 10 years. As I said earlier, we need 10,000 housing units that would connect to services that would work on these homeless issues. Ed Edelman was just hired by the city of Santa Monica to do an outreach to all of us in the county. Santa Monica is showing leadership, LA City is showing leadership, and I ask my colleagues to support this motion, and we will work on the issues of homelessness in the next period of time. Thank you.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, and I will be brief. We had the opportunity with the leadership of Ms. Perry to go out. We were there that night in Skid Row, which unfortunately wasn't my first time walking. As many of you know, I worked on the homeless issue during my Bradley years and served as the Deputy Director of the Interagency Council on Homeless nationally, and so I've been into many Skid Rows across this country, and it still continues to amaze me at the number and the problems and the issues, and I think the many issues raised by Ms. Perry in the last couple of weeks as we talked to commissioners, others were serious issues about the mental illness aspect of this and how we can help people get to the services that they desperately need. And secondly, to address some of the homeless family issues. I sat down yesterday with the LA Homeless Service Authority, and they talked about an effort that was done by PATH. That was another part of the city, but they also went out, I think, with LAPD and some of their outreach workers, which I'm pleased they have 25 now, which has been long overdue to have that number of individuals, because it takes that one-on-one. And our police department has become, social service providers, which is not your job. You're doing a good job at it, but it is not what you were trained necessarily to do. I think the creation of this committee, ad hoc committee, is going to give us the attention and focus we need to be able to say it's a problem that you may not see if you live in a certain part of the West Side or the San Fernando Valley or even in South Los Angeles or on the East Side, but it does exist. These people are not invisible, and what is it that we can do to change that cycle that many of them have become part of. So I just wanted to, I was one of the supporters of this motion when it was initially introduced, but to support this formation of this ad hoc committee and look forward to us working on it. We've found that ad hoc committees like the River Committee, business tax, whatever the issue may be, when we can focus on one issue and almost dissect it, we can have a greater focus and hopefully a greater accomplishments rather than get put in the large number of issues we deal with in each committee. So just wanted to stand up in support of that. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mr. Research.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let me thank my colleagues on the council for bringing this forward. A large part of the homeless issue falls within my district in downtown Los Angeles, and it was a huge issue in our campaign. And as I was thinking about how to go forward on this once I got on council, one of the most important things I thought we could do is to really take a comprehensive look at it with the leadership from the top people in the city to focus with a laser-like focus on this to make sure that we're helping those people in the field who are anxious and willing to do the job they want to do. But it's going to take resources, it's going to take the attention from the top people in the city to make that possible. And I think this commission here, this committee here will do that. It's going to be an area where we could all talk to each other, connect the dots from the service providers to law enforcement to people, the county who's providing mental health services. We're all going to have that dialogue to how better serve and improve the situation. Many of my colleagues on the council have already mentioned how the situation that we have now is unacceptable. We need to get to a better place. Not only because of the economics involved with having a better city, but it is a human being issue. Humans are suffering in our streets, and we in a society as we live in today cannot accept this to go on any longer. I had the privilege of meeting with some officers from Central Division, and I was really pleased to hear that their approach is not only one of pure law enforcement. They recognize the need of the social service branch. They recognize the need for all of us to work together. They're asking for our assistance. The way we begin for this is to have a comprehensive look at it so that we don't just continue to talk about it in silos in different areas, but we bring it all together and make it happen. When I got to the school board about 4.5 years ago, people told us that the district couldn't build any schools, that it was impossible. We're so severely overcrowded, we can't take care of that issue. We're doing that today. We're solving that problem. Things are solvable if the city focuses on it. And I know that this is another step, working with many other people out there to continue to relieve and assist those people in need in our streets. Thank you so much.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, captains.
How are you, sir?
Good to see you here. The commission that's established in the city county, LASA, does the police department work with that at all? The commission that's been established between the city and county to address homeless issues, where we just had some commission appointments?
We attend those meetings as often as we can, either Captain Wakefield or myself. We also have a lieutenant who's our homeless outreach coordinator, Lieutenant Gramalo, you may remember from her Hollywood years, who's been involved in homeless outreach from her Hollywood years. So one or the other of the three of us attends as many of those meetings as we can.
Okay, they get, according to reports, between $45 to $60 million a year outreach and assistance for homeless. And clearly, the concentration of homeless, at least in the city of LA, is in Central Division. Skid Row, Fire Station number 9, Central Division, the impact. Do you find that that $45 to $60 million is being utilized to help some of those folks in need, some of those families in need down there? I know that Willie Jordan, the Fred Jordan Mission, the LA Mission, all the outreach, Friday they're going to be feeding them Christmas dinners. I've been there for the dinners in the past where they feed the homeless and the families, and it's really a sad situation. Do we find that that $45 to $60 million is being used in a positive fashion to help eliminate and solve this problem?
From my perspective, on working on the street level, it is, because if we didn't have those resources, then the thousands of people that spend the night in shelters every night would spill out onto the streets and join the 1,000 or so that are out there every night. It would just be a tremendous number of people living outdoors in downtown.
So it would be worse than it is now?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
And I know from my experience, and I still work LAPD twice a month. I was down there last night, and it's a sad situation that we have to obviously deal with. This committee that we establish, and I try to cut through the bureaucracy and the red tape and solve the problem. Do you find this being a positive to help eliminate, I don't know if we'll ever eliminate it, but to bring it to a better focus and more reality and fewer people in cardboard tents, cardboard homes?
Sir, the one problem I see down there is there's so many different people doing so many different things. We've got the police department's doing our thing, the other city entities are doing their thing, the service providers are doing their thing. We have people from outside of the county bringing in food and bringing in clothing to the homeless people that are down there. And if we have a council committee like this that can focus everybody's attention and get everybody marching in the same direction and everybody working together, I think it can only be a positive thing for downtown.
So right now it's all fragmented. Everyone's coming in from different avenues to do the goodwill, and there's no central concentrated effort.
I do feel like there's a certain amount of fragmentation with different people with different agendas, maybe slightly different agendas, working in different directions on this big piece. And if we could all focus and work together and move forward with one goal and one mission in mind, I think we'd have a lot of success.
Captain Smith and I spent a lot of time trying to bring all of the outside independent contractors together so that we have a work plan as a group. So we are constantly working on that, and it would be of great assistance to have City Council be involved in this and be more of a coordination.
And in fact, some of the stuff that the outside folks are doing is actually counterproductive. You would think that people bringing in trucks loads of food to homeless people out on the street would be a good thing, but in fact we find it's counterproductive, because if you're coming from outside of the city with a truckload of food, you're enabling someone to live in a corner of the division or in a corner of Skid Row where they don't have access to medical treatment, where they don't have access to counseling, where they don't have access to drug treatment. And these folks that enable someone to stay living under a bridge or living in a abandoned building somewhere and not go to the Mission where they can get food, and they'll get seen by a doctor, and they'll get seen by a dentist, and they'll get seen by a drug counselor, and there'll be outreach people there to try and get them hooked in. So some of the stuff that's actually going on down there is counterproductive to getting people off the street.
And this will bring it all under one umbrella, one focus. And I know the compassion of the officers that through their own resources collect toys and try to help the families out there, especially during this time of the year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. There's an outpouring of support from the law enforcement community traditionally, so it's not that they're trying to put everyone in jail. What they're trying to do is make it a somewhat of a quality of life. And it's sad to see people living in cardboard huts within walking distance from City Hall. I mean, we can walk down Los Angeles Street and we'll be right there in the heart of Skid Row. So I totally support what you folks are doing. I want to again give credit to my colleague, Jan Perry, who's been a staunch supporter of trying to address this issue and not ignore it. So hopefully this will have some positive impact on the remedy. And I know that Saturday night we were enjoying the celebration at the Chiefs party, and we enjoy those fun activities, the nice food, the entertainment, and these folks would wish, maybe a dream that they have that someday. Our hope is that they'll all be able to succeed and have a happy holiday, and a happy every day, not just a holiday season. So Merry Christmas to both of you, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for your support, sir.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I rise to support this, and I appreciate the officers being here with us. But I really believe this committee has an opportunity to put together a sense of perspective. As you look at the presenters of this motion, you have Bill Rosendahl, who represents the western part of the city. You have John Perry representing the center and the eastern part of the city. Now, this is the kind of focus it's going to take. You have the seconded by Wendy Gruhl, who represents the valley. These are three areas of the city that talks about how different we are economically, structurally, and from an infrastructure point of view. The homelessness exists for a reason. The question becomes, how can we as a city use this committee to garner the support and learn how to leverage county resources, state resources, and federal resources. Right now, I believe we're doing a very poor job in connecting those dots and how we can work together. The second issue in my mind is a structural issue. For us to have this committee, ad hoc committee on homelessness, and think we're going to create a solution overnight, let's be very clear to those viewing this session and to those who will write about the efforts of this committee. We're not going to find solutions overnight, but at least we can address the weaknesses, build up on our strengths. But colleagues, it gets down to some very profound structural issues. And that is, where do we let people live in the city? Where do you let these services actually exist in the city? Where are the concentrations of programs in the city? Where do they exist, and why don't they exist in other parts where they should? Only because the capacity is there to absorb that type of service. It's going to go against the grain of many of our political inclinations. There's going to be a lot of stakeholders that say, not in my backyard. And truly, if we're going to come forward with a strategy or a solution, I think the land use implications are profound. I don't see it as one of the tasks in this particular motion, but as a member of this committee, I hope to bring that to the table and ask that question: where can people live, and where should services be provided, so we can break down that concentration that you see that is proportionally allocated in our city. So it's going to be a very hard committee. Some hard questions will be asked. In the age of term limits, will we have the guts to really answer them? So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for the makers of this motion. And I have really enjoyed partnering with Ms. Perry on a number of homeless initiatives over the last few years, Mr. Reyes on a number of housing initiatives, and want to thank Mr. Rosendahl for his leadership over on the west side too, where it would be very easy to turn our head away, but where you've really shown true leadership. And also want to thank Ms. Gruhl because of her experience in HUD and really here as well in City Hall under Mayor Bradley. I'll be very brief. The number of people who are homeless each year, I took part in the homeless count, 91,000 any given night, but probably close to an entire council district every year of people. About 250,000 people at some point during the year will be homeless. We're the homeless capital of America. We've got to quickly get rid of that title, and we've got to quickly take the sort of actions that I hope this committee will undertake. Namely, first, a housing first strategy, tying into the housing bond next year that may be on the ballot that the mayor and I have been working on with others of you. Let's make sure that there are homeless folks on that bond. And when we did polling on it, the public understood that if we are going to spend money on housing, we should spend money that actually takes people off the streets, not just into shelters, but permanently into housing. Second, let's do supportive housing. Let's tie in county and city working together. An important part of this ad hoc, and I know Ms. Perry is very strongly leading the way on this, is making sure that we partner the mental health and substance abuse and health concern pieces of the equation with the housing pieces that we have been working on too. And then third, we have to change the attitude of Angelenos. As Mr. Reyes pointed out, there are a number of initiatives like Project YIMBY right now, which say yes in my backyard. How do we get to a place where people don't just say no in my backyard, but get to a place where they say yes in my backyard? Where they say we have a very high standard for affordable housing. We have a very high standard for any homeless services. But we can meet that standard instead of surrendering to saying no and never meeting that standard and never building anything and never solving homelessness. These are our own brothers and sisters, our own residents, our own neighbors here in the city of Los Angeles. Every time we come off of a freeway off-ramp and see somebody, every time we see somebody under a freeway overpass, every time up in Griffith Park or in parks, we see these individuals in the campers on our streets, in the storage units in our neighborhoods. We must say that we can do better, and I hope this will be a good step moving forward to making sure that we will do better.
Mr. Labange.
Captain Smith, Officer, good morning. Members, this is a very important step for Los Angeles. I thank you. But also those seats around you should be filled by other people in your same business, the business of caring for the people of Los Angeles. And I know whether it's the county or our mental health workers, whether it's the Los Angeles City Fire Department. I know Councilmember Zion spoke of Task Force 9, which is the heaviest staffed firehouse in the city and one of the busiest because there needs multiple engine companies and multiple paramedic units. All that need there. I just want to ask you, Captain Smith, how long have you been on the job?
17 and a half years, sir.
So 17, did you ever work Central before?
I worked Newton for about 5 years when I was a P2.
And you see this transformation to where it's spiraled in the way that it has.
Yeah, in some respects, it looks so much worse than it was before. Some folks will say it gets a little bit better, it gets a little bit worse, but right now, as I mentioned yesterday, 4 people dead on Skid Row just yesterday, just on one shift.
Right. And how long have you been on, Captain?
22 years.
20. So did you ever work the Central Bureau before? Or?
No, I haven't.
Where'd you work?
I worked Hollywood and West LA and Van Nuys for a long time. This is my first time at Central.
So you see this as a giant impact, but there's other agencies that have to work hand in hand. I hope below this ad hoc committee is a working group of those who are out there every day trying to find some common ways to resolve and maximize what limited resources that we have there. I just wanted to rise to thank you and also rise to always thank Jan Perry and Mr. Rosendahl and all who signed this, Ms. Gruhl. I know in our very own North Hollywood area, a lot of people with severe challenges find a way. And I'll tell you, members, and I've said this before, I've asked people all the time what high school they go to. And when I sometimes am downtown in the area, I ask people what high school do they go to. And many of them go to Los Angeles high schools, came from Los Angeles high schools, went to Jordan, went to Dorsey, went to Manual, whatever there is that challenge there. And this is us. This is our community. So, captains, I thank you for your always constant commitment and the people who work at Central Bureau, but also the expanded seats of those in other agencies to bring them as partners shoulder to shoulder so we all try to do it together. That will be our success. Because often at the end, members, we just look to the Los Angeles Police Department. but it's other agencies in partnership with that to empower them, to help them do their job. It makes a difference and try to break the challenge and the cycle that has really been a plague for those individuals who suffer from this terrible condition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Okay, that is unanimously approved, and we'll try to get letters making appointments out this afternoon.
Mr. President, for a short introduction.
Mr. Labange for a short introduction.
Members of council and members of the audience, please recognize and welcome always Alex Baum, the great advisor for cycling in Los Angeles. Give him a big hand for many, many years. He's down here advocating for those who ride bicycles. Thank you, Mr. President.
And Mr. Reyes for an introduction.
We have with us the Dalian Study Group. They are comprised of 30 department heads from Dalian, China, who are currently studying their Masters for Public Administration degrees at Cal State Fullerton. They're brought here by George Liu, Dalian Study Group leader Pedro Chan, the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. They're here in City Hall talking to different folks, looking at how we operate and look at the city of LA. Welcome to Los Angeles. Hope you enjoy your stay here in the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Colleagues, we just concluded action on item 34, which we had taken out of order. We also want to take item 14 out of order, then 53 out of order, and then the balance of the items in order. Ms. Han on item 14.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, what we have before us today is for our approval, proposed second amendment to Pacific Harbor Line, and what it is to have operations of port rail facilities between Los Angeles and Long Beach. The reason I brought this up is because you know that I talk all the time about the port being one of the major polluters in Los Angeles. And you know that I'm always critical of growth at the port that doesn't take into considerations the well-being, the health, the welfare of people who live in and around the port communities of Wilmington and San Pedro. I've tried to get all of us engaged in this issue because it's not just a harbor issue, it's all of Los Angeles. The pollution from the Port of Los Angeles carries to the rest of this basin. So I want us all to pay attention to what happens down there and how it affects the health of all of us. This is a good thing that is before us today, colleagues. What this extension did, we're giving them a 10-year extension, but part of it is to give Pacific Harbor Line sufficient time to amortize the cost of upgrading its locomotive fleet with 16 rebuilt switching locomotives. I passed out a little thing in your spare time.
Ms. Han, can I ask you to just pause for a second?
Yeah.
It's getting real noisy over here. Mr. Reyes, if you can help us keep the volume down. Mr. Zine. Thank you. Ms. Han.
I just want you to look at a couple of things of why I think this is important. One is when it talks about the shared cost. We're always trying to figure out who pays for these kinds of things. Who pays for cleaning up the port operation? Well, this is a great example of it being a shared cost. There were Carl Moore funds involved. The Port of Los Angeles kicked in 25% of this. The Port of Long Beach kicked in 25%. But the Pacific Harbor Line stepped up to the plate to contribute 50% to clean up these locomotives. And we're going to have cleaner burning locomotives in this rail line, which will make a huge difference. Look on the back page of this. The estimated reduction from these 16 rebuilt switching locomotives will reduce NOx by 226 tons, which is about a 66% reduction and a 79% reduction in the PMs. Just to make this real, colleagues, 226 tons of NOx is the emission equivalent of approximately 8.4 million truck miles. This is a good thing. One of these locomotives, called the Green Goat, is a hybrid electric locomotive engine. It's the wave of the future. It's the way we should go. No more should we make the decision, colleagues, between what is good for growth and what is bad for our air. We can do both, and I really want to thank the president of Pacific Harbor Lines, who's here today, Andrew Fox, who really stepped up to the plate in this renegotiation and this extension of the contract to say that he too agreed to bear the burden of the cost of cleaning up these engines. This is a great thing for the harbor area, but it's a great thing for all of us, and I think we ought to be pushing everyone who we give contracts with to do the right thing, to clean their engines, to reduce pollution, and to think about the quality of life for those who live in and around port complexes. So, colleagues, this is a good thing. I appreciate the willingness of everyone to work together on this Second Amendment. I think it will be a model, really, for the country. And a model for ports everywhere in terms of rail operations. And I think it's a great thing. And I really, I could have let it go on consent, but I thought it was a great opportunity for all of Los Angeles to know that there are some good guys out there, and they're stepping up to the plate to do the right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
I think Ms. Perry and also Pacific Harbor Lines and everybody who worked on this, and Ms. Hahn, everybody who's been on this issue deserve an applause. So thank you very much for applauding their work. Ms. Hahn, you've done a wonderful job again. This harbor is cleaner today because of the hard work and attention you've given it. In addition to that, this harbor will be cleaner tomorrow because of issues like this. And one thing that I'd like to remind everybody is that unfortunately between the Long Beach Harbor and the LA Harbor, which really has no boundary other than the legal boundary that you can see on a map, that is the most pollutant place in all of Southern California, perhaps all of California. And the bottom line is, what I wanted to point out today is that it's very important for us to thank and recognize that a large business like Pacific Harbor Lines was willing to work to clean the environment, to say, we do want to continue doing business here. It is a very important business that we do here, the harbor, and when you look at the Long Beach Harbor and the LA Harbor, it's literally millions and millions of jobs that are attached to those two places. Over 60% of the commerce that comes in and out of the western coast comes through those two places. So for us to just turn our backs and say it has to be black and white, it's either clean or dirty, it's either busy or not, it's either close it down or keep it open, it doesn't have to be that way. And unfortunately and realistically, it should not be that way. What I'm trying to point out to all of you Angelenos is this. Today, we should celebrate the fact that good work was done. Good policy was done. Politics was set aside, thank God, for us to get good policy done. And here we have it. You're looking at 226 tons of little tiny particles, gazillions of particles that will not affect the lungs of little children and seniors who are most vulnerable because good policy was done. Because a big business said we want to do the right thing, and we allowed them to do the right thing by working with them. And once again, thank you very much, Janice, for your hard work and for doing what you had to do for the environment, for business, for the jobs, and for the local community and beyond. Because these particles traverse the entire country. These particles actually traverse continents. And what we're doing here is 226 million tons will not enter the lungs of people and animals all across this country and across this world because good policy was taken care of. So thank you for keeping your eye on the prize. I thought it was important that people understand how important this one little item on the agenda is. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, I just want to thank Janice Hahn. You've given us the best Christmas gift that we could get, Hanukkah gift, a Kwanzaa gift, by the leadership you've provided, both in the committee that we have the pleasure of serving with you on and before the City Council. I'm delighted that you called it special so that the public could understand the dynamic that just took place. That's a great holiday gift. Thank you, Janice Hahn.
Other members of the council wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Okay, that is approved. We now turn to item 53, colleagues. Last item requested to be taken out of order and call special by Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I'd like to ask Controller Chick if she would come to the front table, please. Thank you. Yes, table. Colleagues, I stand before you today along with, I think, 7 of my colleagues, which is what we can legally do in introducing a motion, but hoping for unanimous support today, to formally go on record in support of the Controller's offer to assist in auditing of the Los Angeles Unified School District. There is nothing more important to all of us than the education, to our futures, the education of our young people. And I think that I have had an extraordinary experience over the last 2.5 years of chairing the Audits Committee and understanding the role that an audit can play, and particularly the role an audit can play when Controller Chick has taken an issue by the horns. A lot of departments weren't thrilled when either she called or sent a letter saying, guess what, it's your turn. But I know that we have had substantial public policy changes in the city of Los Angeles based on an audit, based on those recommendations. And it's not solely been on the audit itself, but the process and procedures that Ms. Chick has put forward, which includes reviewing it and holding people accountable 6 months later. Because audits can occur every single day, whether it be in the school district or the city of Los Angeles, and we've had a few in the city who have sat on the shelf and haven't really produced what we think is important. When we deal with an issue in the city, we welcome with open arms people's offers of assistance. And I think that, again, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, and when I called Laura and said, what can we do to help? What can we do to encourage the school district to see this as a extended arm, extended hand to say, how can we help use some of the expertise and credibility that Laura brings to this effort. And so I think that it is very, very important that every available resource we have is dedicated to students. What I'd like to do is ask you just a few questions, Laura, and for you to have an opportunity to make a few remarks as well, because this came from your office. And
Ms. Gruhl,
colleagues.
just as a heads up, also, we have one speaker card, so at your discretion, let me know when you want to do that.
Okay. Maybe we'll have Laura speak, and then we'll do the public comment at that point. Laura's audits have served as that catalyst for change, and so what I'd like to do is ask Laura to kind of describe what your offer has been, how it's different than audits that have occurred maybe thus far within the school district, what kind of response you've received from the school district. I know in the public at large, you have received numerous letters, as I have, and emails supporting this effort. So I'd ask if we could hold my time and ask Ms. Chick for a brief presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember Gruhl. Thank you, council members. Before I make any of my comments, let me respond to your questions. Here's what I've offered the school district. I have asked them and offered the services of my office to oversee an independent outside audit of LAUSD. I have told them that I don't have a specific scope of work in mind at this point in time. It would be difficult to have a scope of work all worked out without sitting and talking with the superintendent, with school board members, with the president of the teachers union, with other key stakeholders. That is a process we go through every time I do an audit. We meet with key stakeholders of the object of the audit to help us shape what we need to look at. But what I have specified is that I want to help paint a clear, accurate, truthful, objective picture for the school board, for the mayor and the city council, for the mayors of all the cities whose children go to LAUSD schools, and most importantly, for the parents of those children and the people of this city. What has been the response from the school district and the superintendent? They've been polite and civil, and they've been putting up a smokescreen and a 10-foot thick wall of resistance. They are thus far not interested in inviting me in. And some of their response has been, and you see it in the letter written to you today, we already have enough audits. My answer to that is, first of all, the last thing I want to do is duplicate anybody's efforts. I want to be the queen of cost, effectiveness, and efficiency. That's my job definition. I'm not interested in spending taxpayer dollars on doing unnecessary audits. But what's interesting is despite the probably millions of dollars the school district has already and still is spending, for instance, on its Inspector General's office, doing audits, we, the school board, the public, we don't have a clue what's going on there. We know there's been some improvements and progress, that this is a very hard-working board and superintendent. We know their job is a big and challenging one. But how are they spending their money? What further help do they need? What massive changes still need to occur? That's the kind of audit I want to do, and my argument is I'm an independently elected official, and I can do the most independent, the most objective report. I'm not held to the same special interests that, you are sometimes captive to. And lastly, I would say, Councilmember Gruhl, I think that the City Controller of Los Angeles doing an audit that's presented to the school board and to everyone is one of the best symbolic and concrete steps that we can be taking to bring LAUSD and the city working together in a partnership, because there's nothing more important than our children's education. And these are our children as well as the school district's children. I wanted to say thank you today. Thank you, Council President Padilla and all council members for taking this matter up so quickly. To you, Councilmember Gruhl and Rosendahl and Weezer, for introducing the motion. I think that the President's Commission on Education has made enormous progress in coming forward with some important ideas, and I think that the council and mayor have gone on record very clearly saying that LAUSD and improving our public education for our children is a goal we all share. So I believe that my offer to conduct an audit for the LAUSD is a seamless addition to what the council and the mayor are already saying to improve our local public education system. More than anything else, my audit would be intended and targeted to bring more accountability and more transparency to the school district. And I would say that if we could find ways to help the school district reallocate funds to bring more money into the classroom, to be more effective in teaching our children, that's an enormous contribution we can make. Lastly, I would like to point out the lack of transparency and accountability that exists now, despite all the audits we're hearing about. Council members, if you want to know what the Inspector General has been spending $12 million a year on auditing, you can't go on the LAUSD website today and find out. You have to figure out what the Inspector General's website is. And when you go and look, you see a series of disconnected dots, looking at a student buddy account, looking at a specific contract, looking at a specific program, but nothing tying it all together to give us a clear picture. There's a consent decree on special education that exists in LAUSD right now. There is an appointed special monitor who made a report to the school district in August. If you want to see what that report says, you have to be detective and find the special monitor's website. And it is not a complimentary, happy report that's just been made. It's another report that's saying there's serious problems that need to be tended to. So I'm not looking to duplicate. I'm not looking to attack the school district. I am looking to present a clear picture to them of how their money is being spent, a report that delivers a clear picture to the public, to the council, the mayor, the school district, and the mayors of other cities. And the details of the scope of the work would be worked out with the school board, the superintendent, and other key stakeholders. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gruhl?
I just want to close and want to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Rosendahl and Weezer et al., Janice Hahn and Bernard, and I think Tom Labange, who signed, and others who would have if we could have had more than 7 signatures. But to thank you, Laura, for being here today. We are trying to be part of the same family with LAUSD. And I remember distinctly in 1987 when we went to, and you were part of this when you were staff in City Hall, when we went to the school district and offered to put in a program called LA's Best. And the initial reaction we got was no. It's our campus, and we don't want to have that kind of program. We won't have the responsibility. And we didn't take no for an answer. We were able to meet with the school district and the school board at that time and say this is so important, and Mayor Bradley said, we need to invest in our future. Well, that's what we're doing today as well. And we know LA's Best is now in over 140 schools. If we had taken no for an answer, that program wouldn't be here today. But it was a partnership, and we're here to say we are partners in improving our schools. We are partners in the future of the city, and this is our effort to be able to be of assistance. And so thank you for your leadership on this. And probably the colleagues who were co-centers would like to have them speak now as well, and then have this public speaking card after that. Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Weezer.
Okay. Our next, we have a slightly, well, why don't we do Mr. Rosendahl next, and then Mr. Weezer as a co-presenter, and then we'll take public comment to be followed by Ms. Hahn, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Cardenas, and Mr. Reyes. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate this opportunity to speak. I do have the letter here from Roy Romer talking about we're the most audited institution in the world. When I was a candidate for office, probably the #1 issue, and I was just a candidate, that was brought to my attention, besides traffic, gridlock, and safety, was education. People don't understand the LA Unified School District. Many folks aren't participating in it and would like to get involved in it, and they have some real questions about how it's run and where the monies go. So what my hope is that the school board and its superintendent will accept you with open arms. I encourage them to let you in. I encourage them to appreciate this as an opportunity for them to work closer with the city of Los Angeles. We truly believe that the city of Los Angeles should have a relationship to the kids who are being educated in the school system. What is your vision when you see this audit complete, and what do you hope it will do for that relationship between the city and the school system?
I think it's going to bring the school district and the city much closer together, because this is a report that isn't only being presented to the school district, it's being presented to everyone. It's also an audit that is very ready to give credit where credit is due regarding the progress that's been made inside the school district, but is saying there's more work that needs to be done. Whether the audit points out or not areas where the city can be helping the school district, I don't know yet, Councilmember Rosendahl, because as I said, I don't have the specific scope of work. But certainly getting a clear picture of how the dollars are being spent starts to assist decision makers here regarding whether the school district has adequate funds to meet its mission, whether the funds are being spent well, et cetera. Those decisions are being made only by the school board, but you're saying what I already know is true. The city council would like to know that information as well.
Right. Well, we look forward to working with you on that. I know our mayor is very much supportive of the leadership that the city needs to take in the school system, and I will continue to work with Marlene Cantor, who's in my district, who's president of the school board, to see if we can bring us all together so you can do the effective audit that we need.
And it should be done as teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Ms. Gruhl, for bringing this to our attention. And thank you, Laura Chick. I think this is a bold and much-needed move. As many of you know, I served on the Board of Education for 4.5 years. I served as the school board president for 2 years, and I full-heartedly support this. because I do think there needs to be more transparency in the way the district operates and uses our public dollars. I often got frustrated at the district about how we're spending our money, getting the information I need as a trustee. Even as a trustee, it was very difficult to get the necessary information so that I could make an informed decision about where we will allocate our dollars. I, in fact, voted against our budget the first 2 years I was on the Board of Education. And I think as we go forward from here, it's a much-needed review to have another public official that has a track record of doing a great job so that we do one thing here, bring additional transparency to whatever audit is done on the administration of the school district. As many of you know, this came about through a negotiated item with the teachers union and the school district, where they added not only a they finalized their contract for the following year, but they added this on their final agreement. It may seem a bit odd, but in fact, it came about because the union and the public and parents have been asking for this type of audit to occur for years and years and years. And so I think with your involvement as someone who already responds to the public in your role in doing that same work for the city, you will make sure, I believe, that on top of making a great report and finding things that you need to find, you're going to bring that additional value of transparency that is very much needed in this audit that everyone's asking for. We're in some very difficult times, as many people know, in education here in California. In fact, these last 4 years, the Board of Education was forced to cut $1.5 billion from its $7 billion operating budget because of the cuts we're receiving from Sacramento. I think now more than ever, we need to find those dollars through this audit to make sure that we are funding after-school programs, our school police, and we find more monies for increasing the salaries for our teachers, who I do think are way underpaid. So I was very happy to second this, Councilmember Gruhl and Mr. Rosenthal and et cetera, because as someone who has been there for 4.5 years, I've often been there trying to open up the district, trying to be more transparent, trying to be more responsive to the public. But in a large bureaucracy like that, it has the tendency to close up. It has the tendency to defend itself. And in fact, I was often the minority in the district when I tried to open up the district more. We saw it when the city attorney attempted to provide independent inspections of bathrooms. I welcome that, because if we're going to have someone willing to do the work for free, to provide additional review of what bathrooms needed to be cleaned, I said, come on board. But in the nature of the district, it fought that off. In the nature of the district, it said the response from the district was, Rocky is being political. And we're hearing the same thing now. Yeah. The same response as we often hear when people want this district to open up. One of the reasons that Alex Padilla and I created the Commission on School Governance is because of my frustration that I felt there for 4.5 years, that the governance structure that we have right now is simply not working. We don't have enough accountability on people who are ultimately responsible for the performance of this district. We don't have enough transparency. And this commission, who will come out with recommendations sometime in February, I think will provide us with recommendations on how to cure that. And this, what you're offering here, Controller, is one of those elements necessary to continue to hopefully open up that district, make it more responsive and accountable to the public it serves, the parents. And if we think about the type of people, the demographics of the district, over 75% of our children are on free or reduced lunch, meaning they're either in poverty or near poverty. Their parents are the same. They're advocates for their children. We have to stand up and support these parents, who often are as frustrated as I am, to make sure that this district continues to improve. Thank you so much, Controller.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huizar. We'll go to public comment. We have 2 public speaker cards. Jim McQuiston for general comments, and Brady Westwater. So I didn't say for, against, or general, Mr. Westwater? 4, okay. 4 proposal. So first, Mr. McQuiston.
Jim McQuiston, East Hollywood Community Association. My father went to Los Angeles High School when it was on Fort Miller Hill, and he was a senior when they moved to the present location, which was 1 mile outside of any public transportation. And the people in Los Angeles said, Los Angeles is never going to grow as far as our only high school. Think about it. We do have a lot of people that have griped about LAUSD for a long time. I can remember that as a grammar school person. And actually, the question is, how do you get kids to learn? It's not about money, it's about how you get kids to learn. But the problem is we have a Dale Carnegie problem. You can't go in as someone who says the school board and the school system is bad and we're going to take it over and we're going to audit you and find out exactly how we're going to show that it's bad. That's a little bit too close to being antagonistic when you go in. And naturally, there's going to be a lot of resistance. This is going to be a very, very expensive audit. The Inspector General already has spent, what was it, $15 million on bits and pieces. We're going to have to be prepared to spend probably $100 or $150 million. Where are we going to find that in our budget? For that kind of money, we could have 3 full recreational facilities operating year-round with daycare centers. It's a question of priorities. We just don't have the money to do this kind of thing, and it's against the Dale Carnegie principle. We got to get Mr. Romer to shape up if he can, or get somebody else. That's his responsibility to get that thing going.
Thank you, Mr.
Not
McQuiston.
the city council's responsibility. We have our responsibilities to our kids who are growing up who have no playgrounds, who have no infrastructure. And this kind of money is a big chunk out of our funds. And in the past, when we've tried to help LAUSD, they have not offered to compensate us 1 penny. In fact, they have stopped programs that they have copied from our programs because they didn't want to take the liability of themselves.
Thank you, Mr. McQuiston. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Westwater?
Brady Westwater, President, Downtown Los Angeles Neighborhood Council. I'm speaking on my official position for a change. We were the first neighborhood council to be able to agendize this very important issue. Ruben Martinez, the deputy city auditor, came to us, made a presentation. We had a very, very spirited debate. A lot of hard questions were asked, whether it's the right thing for us to do, whether or not this was going to be an adversarial position, whether it's what is going to do it and accomplish. And after we listened to all the points of views, had a lot of very informed people discuss the issue, we overwhelmingly voted to endorse having Laura Chick supervise this independent audit. Unofficially, I've spoken to a lot of people around the city and the other neighborhood councils. There's a lot of enthusiasm. And personally, I've read some of the audits that Laura Chick has done, and I've read the prior audits. The difference is night and day. One actually tells you something, and I'll have to tell you which one that is. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to our comments. Ms. Hahn, to be followed by Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Well, I certainly rise in support of this audit, and it absolutely makes sense to have this kind of independent audit of the school district. And the school district should know that, particularly for the city of Los Angeles, as Wendy Gruhl said, we're not an entity that just criticizes or complains or finds problems without solutions. I mean, we have invested a lot of city dollars into the school district. LA's Best is only one of them. But one of the things I think would be interesting to do, and I don't know if you've ever done that in the city of Los Angeles. I've asked for it, but I haven't really gotten it back on my desk. But I think we ought to specifically audit the LA city funds that we regularly pour into the school district as part of the partnership that we have with the school district. LA's Best is one of them. Prop K bond money that we use with the school district, joint use projects that we enter into, whether it's a library or a recreation and park facility. I mean, there's a lot of joint use projects that we enter into with the school district. We have the Human Relations Commission that I know of one program, I'm sure there's many, where it's about a $330,000 program that the City of Los Angeles pays for our human relations commissioners to go into troubled school districts. Whenever the school district calls them, we go into hotspots, we do training of faculty members about troubled schools and race relation conflicts. We have, how about our bridges 1 and 2? I mean, that's money that we always appropriate, council members, every year. And again, it goes into the school districts. The Gang Alternative Program. I know that the city invests dollars in going into the classrooms to keep our kids out of gangs. We have LAPD, who many times provides presence on campuses. Not to mention, we've had recently a whole strategy for safe schools and safe school areas where our Department of Transportation employees are there after school to direct traffic and an LAPD presence. As you know, we have special event permit waivers for football games and other campus activities. So part of that is to say, you know, how are our funds being spent? But it's also to say, look, we have invested a lot of money in the school district. We're not stingy in LA when it comes to investing. And as you all know, every year during the budget, we all have very difficult decisions to make in terms of how we spend our city dollars. We spend a lot of that in the school district. You know, I have recently been very upset with the school district in terms of how they're citing their schools. They passed over free land in San Pedro to build a new high school, which now they will be paying over $30 million for, because they passed up an opportunity because their demographers and those that project where they need to build new high schools missed the opportunity only a few years ago to have free land. Those are the kinds of things I think you should look into, and I think those are the kind of things that people care about. Right. Look, we have supported every bond measure that's ever come to us. We've taken an official position on the City Council in support of building new schools, of taxing ourselves so that they can build new schools. But I agree, there are a lot of questions that I have. There are a lot of questions that taxpayers have on how these monies are being spent ultimately to educate our kids. I think it's long overdue. I think it is the absolute right thing to do. And you know they're going to be coming to us for more money. They're going to be coming to us for more joint use projects. They're going to be coming to us, I'm sure, for another bond measure. But I think in all good conscience and you know, fiscal responsibility, we have to see this. We have to see how these dollars are being spent and whether or not there can be some major improvements in how they're spending the taxpayer dollars.
Thank you.
Just like you said, Controller Chick, these are our students.
Right.
These are our kids. They're not the school district's kids. They're our constituents as well. And we need some questions that are answered. So I'm really glad you're pushing for this. And I think if they don't allow you or welcome you, I certainly think at least on the dollars that are our dollars, specifically that we budget, I'd like to see a good accounting of how those dollars are being spent.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Padilla, followed by Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Check, for bringing this idea forward and for being before us today. Colleagues, I do rise in support of what's before us, but I think to proceed in our ongoing attempts to be partners with the school district, to be helpful to improving public education in Los Angeles, that we also do it in a way that's as informed as possible on our own end. So I do have a series of questions, Mr. Chair, if you can just hold my time in between them. First of all, Ms. Chick, I'm sure in the process of coming forward with this idea, you did a little bit of homework as to any historical precedent there might be for the city or a city controller specifically rendering these types of services to the school district. Is there?
I'm sorry, has there been a precedent?
Yes.
I don't believe that the city controller's office has overseen an audit for the school district before.
Okay, and so we're embarking on new territory here.
I think so.
Can you just either remind me or clarify it for all of us what the context is here? If we approve what's before us today, does that make you the auditing entity for the school district?
Oh, no. First of all, I'm not offering to do this in an ongoing way. I'm offering to oversee an audit. Councilmember Weezer referenced the occasion that caused me to make the offer. It's because there's an audit that is going to happen that's part of the UTLA agreement. So I used that as the occasion to make the offer and to say, I would love to oversee. You want an independent offer, I'd love to oversee that. So it's a one-time offer. It's not in my job description. It's why they would have to invite me in. And it's also why my intent and purpose has always been, this is an audit that's being done for them. This is an audit they would pay for. There are dollars that have already been earmarked. I've been told by several key leaders in LAUSD that the $200,000 figure that's mentioned in the agreement was just a placeholder. They've always known it's going to be a more costly audit than that.
Okay, and I'll have a couple questions about that in a second, but just to be clear for folks watching from home, that if the council votes to approve this today, that doesn't mean that it's a sure thing that you, the city controller, will be the auditor for this specific audit.
No, it's just supporting the school board inviting me in to do it.
Okay, so ultimately they're the ones that have to decide. You mentioned the issue of cost. Is there
Right.
any initial estimate as to what an audit of this type might cost?
It's a very rough estimate, but I have come up with the figure, speaking to some of my auditing experts, of about $800,000.
Okay.
It's a big audit.
And this is something that will be completely paid for by the LAUSD?
It's certainly my intention that no city funds are used. This is an audit for the school district, of the school district, and it's my fervent belief that they should pay for it and that they have the funds available.
Okay, colleagues, if I can offer the first amending motion that the item before us be amended to include that language at no cost to the city. Because any of us to go back to our constituents and say, sorry, we can't remove this area of graffiti because we committed $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to auditing the school district, I think is tough for all of us. So that's talking about the cost of the audit. What about the scope of the audit? Is it a fiscal audit, a performance audit? What kind of audit are we talking about?
Councilman, very often, and for instance, this is happening with Recreation and Parks, I will do more than one audit at the same time. So one will go in and be a fiscal or a compliance audit. The other will be more of a performance audit. It is possible that that's what I would choose to do here, but staying within both the time frame and the general cost estimate, so I'm not looking to enlarge things. But if I'm going to be looking at how the money is spent, certainly some of it is going to be fiscal. And let me also explain that so far in my experience after 90-plus audits, performance audit, the definition is very loose. So I would say it would be more of a performance management audit, but we would look at fiscal issues.
Okay, and again, just to know potentially going into this, what the scope is, if everything's on the table, and if not everything's on the table, then what is and what isn't?
Well, I would say there would be two major areas that would not be on the table.